One Piece is a story of progress. As our characters have sailed down the Grand Line, they've only gotten stronger over time, growing both as people and as fighters. And while we have seen most of that from the Straw Hat Pirates, they aren't the only ones who've gotten better over time. Marshall D. Teach has gone from a nameless pirate in a bar to the terrifying Emperor of the Sea. He is a far cry from the man on a raft who was easily taken out by the knock-up stream during the Skypiea saga. Now, Blackbeard has the power to level islands. He is an overwhelming threat that could very well be the final villain of the series. But could he get even stronger? Teach is already intimidating, but there is potential for his power to get outright cataclysmic. In this video, we'll be looking at how much room Blackbeard still has to grow as a villain. By the time he faces Luffy, this man is set to become a full-on monster. Let's get to it. Part 1. Never twice without a third. Let's start with one of the things that sets Teach apart from other villains. He can break the rules of his world's power system. For most people, eating a second devil fruit leads to a violent death. The human body can only withstand one set of powers at a time. Somehow though, Blackbeard has managed to avoid that grisly fate. He absorbed the power of the Gura Gura no Mi via some mysterious action he took under a black sheet. How this happened is still unclear, but it does leave us with some room to speculate. If Teach was able to gain a second set of powers, why not a third? Perhaps he could even gain a fourth or a fifth. That sort of escalation seems unlikely, however. If it was that easy to acquire new powers, Teach would have eaten every devil fruit he possibly could. Instead, he picks his targets carefully. He had read a book talking about the Yami Yami no Mi, which inspired him to seek it out. He set up events at Marineford to lure out Whitebeard and take the Gura Gura no Mi from an already injured man. Teach is looking for very specific devil fruits, which suggests his ability to absorb them is limited. Still, he may go for 3. We saw him on Amazon Lily hunting the power of the Mero Mero no Mi. His Jolly Roger bears 3 skulls, which at least suggests Teach plans on ending up with 3 devil fruits. But what could the third be? We can make some deductions here. The Yami Yami no Mi's darkness would interfere with any other kind of Logia. It absorbs everything, including the energy projected by other devil fruits. It would end up nullifying any energy attack he makes, leaving a second Logia essentially unusable for Teach. And even if he was able to suppress that effect, the gains from this path would be low. The Gura Gura no Mi and Yami Yami no Mi have given Blackbeard a lot of attack options. A new fruit should give him something his existing powers do not offer. A Paramecia is certainly possible. Teach has recently tried to take one. However, these fruits are usually highly complex. The abilities they grant tend to be very specific. They require skill and intelligence to use to their fullest. Take Katakuri for an example. He's an extremely proficient warrior, and a large part of that comes from his devil fruit. But he is creative and well trained. Katakuri ate his fruit at the age of 5 and has been practicing with it all his life. While Teach is smart, mastering a Paramecia requires a large amount of effort. It would have to be an extremely potent Paramecia to justify the time spent learning to control it. Instead, a Zoan is the most likely choice. It would give Teach additional strength and endurance, counteracting the enhanced pain caused by the Yami Yami no Mi. Almost any Zoan type would be useful to Blackbeard, but we have seen his love for powerful fruits. He is not going to settle for a regular animal transformation when more potent options are available. He will likely be focused on mythical Zoans, specifically looking for the rarest and most powerful he can find. Kaido's devil fruit would have been a good pick, but that would have required Teach to face Kaido, and he is not all that fond of fighting legendarily strong opponents. Blackbeard actually has a mythical Zoan type user on his crew. Katarina Devon has eaten the Ino Ino no Mi model Kitsune. That does mean that there was a mythical Zoan type fruit that Teach had easy access to and did not claim. But that does make sense. The Kitsune fruit does not fit Blackbeard's fighting style. It is focused on shapeshifting, likely boosting the user's mobility and reflexes. Blackbeard strongly favors raw power over speed or evasion, using shadows to pull his enemies in close for a strong punch. A form that focuses on strength and resilience would be best for him. He would prefer a tank power set, if you will. And one fruit fits that idea perfectly. The Hito Hito no Mi model Daibutsu. Used by Fleet Admiral Sengoku, this fruit allows the user to turn into a gigantic golden Buddha. It is extremely resilient and packs substantial physical strength. Sengoku himself used it at Marineford to battle Teach and did extremely well, even against attacks that were tearing his island to shreds. This would be the ideal final devil fruit to complement the Gura Gura no Mi and the Yami Yami no Mi. This trifecta leaves Teach with the ability to absorb whatever he wants, break whatever he doesn't, and withstand anything that could be thrown at him. There are no obvious flaws in this combination of powers. Anyone facing Blackbeard the Bodhisattva should be very afraid. And you should be afraid if you are not subscribed. Make sure you are. And while you're checking that, be sure that you've rung the bell and hit the like button for your daily dose of plot armor. Now, how else can Mr. Ziha get ridiculous? Part 2. Mastery of Mantra. His command of Haki was once believed to be Marshal D. Teach's greatest weakness. Unlike the admirals of the Navy, we have seen little sign of Blackbeard using these strange abilities. There were some fans speculating that he would serve as a mirror to Shanks. The leader of the Red-Headed Pirates has no devil fruit abilities, relying entirely on Haki in combat. Teach would be his opposite. No Haki, but 2 extremely potent devil fruit abilities to even the scales. After all, he is the man who gave Shanks that distinctive eye scar. It made sense to draw some parallels between the two of them. However, that idea was always flawed. Teach hasn't focused on Haki as much as some other characters, but he has always possessed it. In Impel Down, he was able to sense Luffy's growing Haki even before Luffy's training with Rayleigh during the time skip. That alone shows some skill with observation. After those 2 years, his mastery has only gotten stronger. When Teach fought on Amazon Lily, he was able to block a mountain-shattering blow via a reinforced arm. It's clear he has at least gotten the basics of armament Haki down. That leaves Conqueror's Haki as the one type that Blackbeard may not possess. Even that is unclear. We've only seen Teach in 1 fight since the time skip. That is not enough for us to say safely that he does not have Conqueror's Haki. He just hasn't been made to use it yet. However, we also haven't seen any signs of advanced Haki techniques being employed by Teach. He hasn't demonstrated anything even close to armament projection or future sight. These abilities are tough even for Haki users. Not everyone can use them, and it is not clear if Blackbeard can either. Haki is usually strengthened by either intense training or facing strong opponents. Blackbeard keeps running away from the latter, preferring fights he knows he can win for sure. Has he been training then? Well, he might have been. We know Blackbeard was familiar with Haki for a long time. After all, he is the first person in all of One Piece to use the term. He could sense Luffy's growing Haki as far back as Jaya. Looking at his bounty poster, he remarks, "I thought 30 million was low for someone with that level of Haki." Even when he was an unknown figure, Teach was very familiar with this mysterious power. And that fits with what we know of his history. Blackbeard was able to injure Shanks even prior to acquiring the Yami Yami no Mi. That can't have been easy for a man with no devil fruit. It makes sense to assume Teach is very familiar with Haki. His exact level of skill with it is a mystery, but underestimating him is a very, very bad idea. Part 3. The next level of power. There is one area of growth that will make Blackbeard go from a dangerous combatant to a walking natural disaster. Awakening. As Doflamingo explained, this is a second level of devil fruit powers, reached when a person's body fully catches up with their abilities. As far as we are aware, Teach has yet to awaken either of his devil fruits. Given that they are already both insanely destructive, it is hard to imagine what a powered up version of either would even look like. We do have some existing examples to look at though. They give us a baseline to try and work out what awakening could do for Blackbeard. Paramecia type awakenings tend to boost 2 factors, scale and precision. Doflamingo was able to convert buildings into additional string, using it for powerful attacks against Luffy, as well as forming the destructive birdcage that almost leveled Dressrosa entirely. But Blackbeard is already at that point. The Guruguru no Mi was able to reduce Marineford to rubble. If its scale grows beyond a single island, it will be outright cataclysmic. Blackbeard may be able to level the entire Red Line outright, or bring down a whole archipelago like Totoland with a single attack. Sengoku claimed that the Guruguru no Mi gave Whitebeard the power to destroy the world. That may not have been a metaphor. What could perhaps be even more scary, however, is the idea of increased precision. The earthquakes created by the Guruguru no Mi are extremely destructive, but they are tough to use in a fight. They are more of a danger to the local environment than any one specific target. Imagine if Teach could focus all that island-shattering power into a single punch without the wind-up. It would essentially cause an internal quake, shattering bones and organs with just a touch. This would be disturbingly potent as an attack. When you add in Haki or Teach's existing physical strength, it grows downright terrifying. Further, the Guruguru no Mi does not require a solid surface to carry the quake. We have seen Blackbeard use it to create a sea quake, knocking an entire fleet out of his way. If the Guruguru no Mi can affect water, Awakening may allow it to affect the air. This would give Teach a limited form of telekinesis, letting him knock foes away from extreme range. More importantly, it would let him use the Guruguru no Mi in a fight without leveling the entire area. Even intense air pressure shifts won't be as destructive as an earthquake, letting Teach cut loose without the worry of hurting his own men. With all that being said, it is much harder to predict what an awakened Yami Yami no Mi might be able to do. Up until now, we have seen no signs of any Logia user reaching the awakened state. There is no real precedent for what those abilities would look like when enhanced. However, we can work out the basics. All Devil Fruit users who achieve awakening grow generally more powerful and have a wide variety of uses for their ability. Teach will likely gain more control over the Yami Yami no Mi's darkness. He will have an easier time using it defensively, and he will probably be able to draw in multiple targets at once. But then, we get to what might be the scariest possibility of Blackbeard reaching the awakened state: Mass Power Nullification. The ability to shut down his enemy's Devil Fruit powers is a unique and highly dangerous ability for Teach. It has only one weakness: it needs him to make direct physical contact with his enemy. Haki-using foes can generally free themselves from Blackbeard's grip through force, limiting his ability to make use of this power. Whitebeard downright humiliated him at Marineford when Teach thought nullifying the Guruguru no Mi was enough to win the fight. Now, imagine if that physical contact requirement was gone. Blackbeard just needs to project his shadow to nullify his enemy's powers. That's far from unreasonable as far as growth goes. Most Logia users have a lot of abilities to project their energies, but this would be a significant power boost for Blackbeard. If simply getting within the range of his shadows could trigger the nullification, enemy Devil Fruits would be totally useless against him. He would be quite literally untouchable. The only way out of an ability like this would be to force Teach to move away from his blanket of shadows. The Yami Yami no Mi projections only last as long as he is concentrating on them. If you keep him too busy to maintain his control zone, say by forcing him to run away, you might be able to stop this technique. But even that is a long shot. Part 4, where things get complicated. We have gone over all the conventional sources of power in One Piece. Blackbeard has potential in every one. He's got a lot of room to grow as a threat, but he is not limited to those three categories. Blackbeard has never played by the rules or be content with what he has. When he sees more power, he takes it. But what else is left for Blackbeard to steal? Well, for a start, there are the wonders of science. We know there is something strange about Blackbeard's body. He may have already undergone some kind of genetic enhancement. If so, he could try to take this further. Judge Vinsmoke's experiments show us just how much power you can get with this approach. Germa 66's abilities are downright incredible. They are a legendary fighting force. If Teach is able to apply some of these lineage factors enhancements to himself, his strength could skyrocket. Trying to take some of the research and equipment Mads worked on has to be tempting. It is not clear if these abilities can be applied to adults, however. The Vinsmoke siblings were all experimented on when they were extremely young. However, Judge's technology gives us a second option: the raid suit. These high-tech armor suits enhance the user's physical strength greatly. Given Blackbeard's focus on pure brawn, they would synergize nicely with his fighting style. They may even help unlock existing physical enhancements. When Sanji used his, he started to gain some of the abilities Judge attempted to imbue him with as a child. If Blackbeard is a modified human, a raid suit may push those abilities even further. However, Judge isn't going to give his technology up to Blackbeard without a fight. Neither would Queen or Vegapunk. Teach tends to prefer easier targets. He might focus more on ancient civilizations. He has shown some interest in this area already. He is able to recognize Lunarians on sight, an impressive feat for an almost extinct species. Oda stated that in the real world, Teach would be an archaeologist. Blackbeard still considers it a hobby of his. Remember that in the One Piece world, some historical information is banned due to fear of ancient weapons being recreated. It makes sense that someone interested in power would study archaeology. It would put them on the path of finding some of these long-buried doomsday devices. There is a lot to find hidden in the history of the One Piece world. Ancient civilizations were advanced enough to build working spaceships. There is an entire civilization of robots on the moon. These are all things that would theoretically be useful for Yonko. New ships and new recruits. But there is one piece of long-lost technology that won't require Teach to reach for these stars to claim it. That is the ancient weapon, Pluton. Luffy and his friends have left the world's worst battleship behind them, sealed underwater in Old Wano. When Momonosuke resolved not to open the borders, Pluton should be out of anyone's reach for the moment. However, the thing keeping this ludicrously powerful warship hidden is a wall of rock surrounding Wano. If Blackbeard learns about the facts here, it would be very easy for him to break through the borders thanks to the Guruguru no Mi. After that, all he has to do is let the waters drain, dock his ship near the rubble, and go find it. Pluton will be his for the taking. Getting it back to the water would be a hassle, but such an incredible ship would certainly justify the work to Blackbeard. According to Crocodile, Pluton is powerful enough to destroy whole islands in a single shot. That places it on par with whatever Immu used to wipe out Lulusia Kingdom. It's also supposed to be hard to damage. The only thing the Water 7 shipwrights could think of that might stand a chance in a battle against Pluton was a second Pluton. Thanks to Frankie destroying the blueprints, that is no longer an option. On paper, nothing is left but Poseidon and Uranus that could stop this massive battleship. Blackbeard must be salivating at the prospect of such an incredible warship. It even has thematic resonance for him. Pluton is named after a god of death after all. What better to fight against Nika, the god of the sun, than the ruler of the underworld? The only thing stopping Blackbeard from claiming Pluton is the fact that sunken Wano is largely unknown. At present, he should have no idea that the ancient battleship has been buried like this. Almost no one does. The barrier around Wano is a closely guarded secret of the Koziki clan, as is the ancient land hidden below. Even Kaido never learned of its presence during his 20-year ruling of Wano. It would take incredibly bad luck for this information to reach someone like Blackbeard. And unfortunately, our protagonists aren't so good at keeping things to themselves. As soon as Robin learned the truth, she went to share it with her crew. Naturally, this led the Straw Hats to loudly talk about Pluton being hidden in Wano and how Odin wanted to unleash it by opening the borders. They said all that in a public tea house where anyone could hear them, and unfortunately, Karibu was listening in. The Mudman spy was very excited to hear about Pluton and planned to immediately let a certain person learn what he had found out. We don't technically know that he's going to report this to Blackbeard, but there aren't many alternative options. Karibu has a history of killing Marines, so he probably wouldn't be offering this information to the world government. Kaido, Big Mom, and Doflamingo have all fallen by this point, and Karibu probably knows this. None of them would be in a position to properly compensate him. The announcement of Cross Guild forming had not reached Wano yet, which rules out Crocodile as a potential patron as well. Unless his employer is a new character, Blackbeard is the only plausible option left. If Karibu was able to get a Den Den Mushi call out before infiltrating the Sunny, Teach may already know about Pluton. If he does, it won't be long before he makes a move to claim it. And it won't be pretty. We saw how ruthless Blackbeard got in Amazon Lily. If he wants something, he will kill everyone between him and it. Let's hope that Momonosuke, Yamato, and the Scabbards are ready for that fight. If not, the Blackbeard Pirates will be leaving Wano in ruins, with enough firepower to destroy anyone left that stands in their way. But hey, that's just a possibility. What do you think Blackbeard is going to get up to next? Do you think he'll be able to grow more powerful than Luffy's Gear 5th? Let us know in the comments down below. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.